Hello fans and viewers, I am Eric with HamRadioConcepts. I'm pretty sure you're subscribed already, but if you're not, click the button below and just subscribe so that you can follow along in the next couple of videos on this new topic. Now, usually on this channel we talk about ham radio related things, right? A lot of ham radio antennas and radios and how to do this and how to talk on that. But then recently we've made some videos on CB radio, and I've always been involved in CB since I was 10 years old, and there's still a lot of people that follow CB. I couldn't believe the amount of positive comments on that video. It really took off. But let's say you're one of the radio enthusiasts that's not so technical and doesn't really feel yet that you want to get a ham license and get involved in ham radio. Let's say that's just not for you yet, but you may already be on CB radio, which is free, no license required, and you can get on CB radio and make contacts, but maybe that's not for you. Maybe you want something a little more structured than CB, but not so stringent as ham radio. Maybe you want another stepping stone to get into a better, bigger radio, or maybe you're a hiker, fisherman, emergency disaster relief, a prepper, doomsday prepper. There is something in between CB and ham radio, and it's called GMRS, General Mobile Radio Service. And I've known about this for quite some time, but I just now got involved and jumped aboard and got my license. We're going to tell you in this video, first in this video, about GMRS, how easy it is to get a license and where to do that. And I'll go over some frequencies and stuff and give you an idea of what I'm talking about. But then in the next episode following this, I'm going to talk about some gear that I have here, and in the video after that, I'll get on the air and make some contacts and show you what you can expect, and I want to see how active GMRS is in my area. You know, GMRS is a little bit different than FRS because you could use repeaters, and you have an extended range with higher power radios that you're licensed to use. In the next video, I'll give you a sneak peek now. I have no problem putting my name and recommending this brand because I've mentioned in the CB video about Midland. I used Midland CBs for years. I had the same base station, Midland base station, that they had in the movie Tremors, if you remember that, when they were up on top of the building. I had that one, brand new in the box when I was like 15 years old. I've had a lot of Midland radios. I still have Midland weather stations. I've had the Midland blister pack radios. I've had a lot of Midland stuff, and they always did me well. So I'd have no problem recommending what I bought, the Midland series of GMRS radios, and these are going to be in the next video. Now, the reason Midland started making these, they said, and for example, this is an MXT 275 15 watt mobile, and this is the MXT 400 40 watt mobile. So Midland decided that CB was going away and they wanted to jump in on the market to GMRS, and that may have been a good idea. I'm not sure how many people are out there replacing CB with GMRS on the radio, but I'm willing to find out as soon as I get this set up in my vehicle. So I wanted to add another mode of communication in my vehicle, and GMRS is affordable enough to do that and may give me a whole new realm of people to talk to. So it's not like you're substituting one for the other, you're just adding another tool to the toolbox so that you have more modes of communication. So Midland was actually kind enough when they found out that I bought these to make my videos. I didn't have an idea for an antenna. They said, hey, we'll donate an antenna for this so that you can use those in the video. I said, hey, that's great. I don't have a Midland hat yet, but I hope I get one soon. So they actually provided a Midland 6 dB NMO antenna that I'm going to put on my vehicle. And I was thinking about a mount, and they said they have a mag mount. So they provided the antenna. Thank you, Midland, for doing that so that I can get this on the air, because I only have 5 antennas on the vehicle, and I got to figure out where to put the 6th one. But this makes it a lot easier than drilling a hole. And not only that, I looked at a couple dealers near me or that I shop with, Gigaparts and others, and I couldn't find very many GMRS antennas. Then I thought about getting one and cutting it down to make it resonant, but I'll just stick with the Midland. They make one to pair with their radios. I'm more than happy to show that. So let's get started in what is GMRS. Next video, if you follow, will be a review on the radios and how easy they are to operate. You don't need a programming cable. You don't need to learn how to program these like a DMR radio or a D-Star radio if you're familiar with ham radio already. These are pretty straightforward and simple. Then in the third video, we'll make some contacts, get on a couple repeaters, and maybe do a couple range tests in the future. And then I'll show you what's going on in my vehicle, because people are asking, wow, you put any more radios in that thing? I want to see what that looks like. So I'll give you a tour after that. Let's check out GMRS.
HamRadioConcepts. The place to come for amateur radio videos.
Okay, so these links are in the description below in the video, and these are 4 links, 4 tabs I have open that'll give you a little more information. You can click on them and read them yourself. But in a nutshell, by definition, the FCC.gov website, FCC, tells you right here all about the GMRS service, and by definition, a licensed radio service that uses channels around 462 to 467 megahertz. So channels is the first word. It is a more or less a channelized system. You know how CB is 40 channels? But when you get on ham radio, you know, you can go all over the place with different frequencies here, there, and everywhere, right? With different bands. This is more or less channelized. You have a certain amount of channels that exist on all GMRS radios, 22 to be exact. And those are preset, and those are the GMRS channels. The most common use of GMRS channels is for short distance two-way voice communications using handheld radios, mobile radios, and repeaters. So it's safe to assume if you have a GMRS radio with a license and somebody else has a GMRS radio with a license and you're both on channel 20, you're both going to hear each other. It's not, well, what frequency is your channel 20 and what color code are you and what is your CTC? No, channel 20 is channel 20 is channel 20 for the most part. So it makes it easy right there that you don't have to learn about frequencies or tones and all that. They're kind of just in there, channelized, and you know, for US, and that's the way that is. So it makes it a lot easier for those who are brand new to radio. You don't have to memorize frequencies like you do in ham radio. Although I hope one day that you decide to learn the frequencies in the ham radio bands and become an amateur radio operator. But for now, I don't want to confuse you. I just want you to feel comfortable knowing you can get into this radio service without all that extra mumbo jumbo until you're ready for it. So that's that. And look, in 2017, the FCC expanded GMRS to allow short data messaging applications, including text messaging and GPS location. Do we have radios coming down the road that are going to have features like these handheld ham radios that we have with GPS and, you know, where you can send a short message over FRS? Is that coming on GMRS? I don't know. They allowed it. Maybe they're trying to get more interest in it, or there's just the capability. Maybe radios will be out in the next couple years. So, and you can see here one last thing on this page. Similar to Citizens Band, the family radio service, and multi-use radio service. So FRS and GMRS. You've heard both of those maybe, but what's the difference? We'll get into that in a second. Before you do all this and you want to get your license, here's the next link that you want to go to the FCC page, and this is where you'll go on and apply for a license. Now, no testing exam is needed, okay? You just have to pay the fee and wait for the license. So this universal licensing system online, which was closed for a while with the government shutdown, but as soon as it came back open online temporarily, I went right in here, I purchased my license. You do need an FRN number. Now, if you're a ham, chances are you have an FRN number and you can look that up in the database. If you don't have an FRN number, no problem. You can register with the FCC and get an FRN, but all hams should have an FRN number. So when I log in, it'll show me my licenses, and currently what you won't see is my GMRS license because it's still pending. They're probably so backed up with the government shutdown that it hasn't posted, but I did call them and wait on hold, and they told me it is there. I did pay for it, $70 for 10 years, okay? And that $70 for 10 years covers immediate family members. So being that I bought a license, my wife can get on GMRS under my license right now. And I don't know how that happens. Does she use my call sign? Does she not use a call sign at all? I'm not sure how that works. If you know, leave a comment if you're a GMRS person. But from what it reads online, they are authorized family members. Now, if you're a business and you got 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people working for you, they each have to have their own license. If you're in a Jeep club And because I guess Jeep clubs, they go out in the wilderness and they all use CBs, but some of them want better range and better clarity. GMRS may be for you if you're in a Jeep club. But you should all get your license. $70 for 10 years. That's not bad at all. And so you won't see my GMRS license here. But once it pops up, I will have that. I'll have my call sign. And it is similar with a call sign, more like CB. It'll have WGX 2160. It'll have letters and numbers. And similar to ham radio, you get on there and throw your call out, WGX 2175, and at the beginning and every 10 minutes, just to identify yourself. A little bit of structure here without being so structured like ham radio. If that's, if that's what you hear, people constantly calling out call signs. You know what? The stipulation on ham radio is at the beginning and end of your transmission and every 10 minutes. But for some reason, when I get on D-Star or Fusion, people now think they have to put out their call sign in the beginning and at the end of every sentence. KJ4YZI, this is such back to you, KJ4YZI. No, once every 10 minutes in the beginning and end of conversation. Just, that's how it goes. So, you'll notice other people on there will have different call signs, and you'll meet people with, I don't know how the call sign system works on GMRS, but there's probably a strategy to it for different states and different countries, or different states and what have you. So we're going to go here to the FRS GMRS combined channel chart, and then I'll go to the wiki page. I don't want to confuse you here. Very simple. The reason this is simple, you remember we talked about this, channelized, right? Uses channels. So this is the 2017 FRS GMRS channel chart. Now remember this saying, all tortoises are turtles, but not all turtles are tortoises. Okay? If that makes sense. All FRS radios generally are legal to transmit on all 22 channels, but not all 22 channels on a GMRS radio are acceptable to transmit, if that makes sense. So FRS was always limited to a half a watt, and then in 2017 they upped it to 2 watts. So of the 22 channels for FRS, 2 watts is the max power on all the channels except 8 through 14. But on GMRS, your radio may do 30 or 40 or 50 watts. So you can see channels 8 through 14, no matter if you have a GMRS license or not, you're limited to a half of a watt. Now, if you can't put your radio on a half a watt at 12.5 kilohertz bandwidth, then it's illegal to transmit there, because those are reserved for half a watt only. And you can see up here, channels 1 through 7 are 5 watts. GMRS is normally 20 kilohertz bandwidth, and FRS is usually 12.5. So it's a wider signal in FRS. But if you grab a blister pack radio from Walmart or from eBay or from Amazon, the little handhelds that your kids may have when they're going hiking or camping or they're playing around, and they have 22 channels in them, and they throw these exaggerated numbers about 40-mile range and all that. No, by law, those were always half a watt radios until 2017, when they bumped it up to 2 watts. And I don't know how many companies are making those radios at 2 watts, because it costs them more to make that. But half a watt, and also a restriction for FRS, is any of those blister pack radios must be half a watt with a fixed antenna on the unit. You cannot have a great big 6 dB gain or a Yagi on FRS. It's against the rules. That's why it's an unlicensed band. GMRS, being that it's licensed, you are allowed up to 50 watts, and you can have an external antenna. But all those blister pack radios will transmit on all 22 channels for the most part, and they will have a half a watt or 2 watts. But if I have this Midland MXT 400, and I am transmitting any more than a half a watt on 8 through 14, or more than 5 watts on 1 through 7, I'm breaking the rules. Now, we'll check out in the next video about those radios, and maybe I'll measure the power, and we'll see what kind of power is coming out. Is that hard-coded into that radio, or is it up to me to know when and where I can transmit? We'll find out. But this looks a little bit crazy, doesn't it? If you look at the wiki page, let's go down here. See, there's another blister pack here. So down here, here's your 22 channels, and it's very simple. FRS, up to 2 watts here. and then half a watt 8 through 14, and then up to 2 watts 15 through 22. But GMRS up to 5 watts 1 through 7, half a watt 8 through 14, and 50 watts up to 15 to 22. And normally the repeater channels are in the upper channels here. Those are usually where the repeater channels are. So you have simplex channels and repeater channels. And of course, we'll get into the repeaters here in a second. They're all standardized with different offsets by area. So we'll check that out. And Canadian border, Canada has a GMRS, but on the border, I think there's a little bit different rules because Canada uses a lot of UHF up there, and I've heard from hams up in the northern states that say they're power restricted at UHF and stuff to not interfere with the Canadian radio services. So all 4 of these here on the description. Let's move on to see about the repeaters and the way the offsets are and where you might find a repeater map. Here's the next link in the video in the bottom in the description that may blow your mind. You may think already in this video when you've been watching this, wow, that sounds great, Eric, but there's not a lot of GMRS repeaters out there. Well, check this link out, mygmrs.com. I've only known about this site for a couple weeks as I was, playing around in GMRS land, but let's click on map right here and check this out, okay? Before we zoom in, if you look at this, just up here in New England, there's 265 GMRS repeaters. Look at this. I mean, if you live in Richmond, Virginia, here's 6 right here by Richmond. Look, it gives you the frequency and the call sign of the repeater. You click on it, shows you right here. Ashland, Virginia, with the GMRS repeaters. I think it's a lot easier for somebody to set one up than it is for a ham repeater as far as coordination and everything else. You can see the names are a little bit different than what you'd see on a regular ham radio repeater. But I'm going to go down here to Vero in my area for a second because it looks like there's 2 south of me. Hutchinson Island 575 and Fort Pierce 675. Now, I could see if I'm talking about these repeaters, I would say to my friend, how about the 675 in Fort Pierce? Because generally, 462.675 is already a pre-programmed channel in your GMRS radio. The Hutchinson Island 575. There's 2 down here, and it looks like there was 2 up here, the Melbourne 725 and the Brevard 700. So as I'm traveling up the coast, though, there's 2 more here in Cocoa, 1 over here, and there's 1 over here in Cocoa. So there is opportunity for me to have communications on repeaters. And, of course, maybe in my area it's a little bit desolate. Let's go over to Texas. They usually have a lot of stuff. There you go. There's 23 here in Dallas. There's all your repeaters. You got 3 here in Gainesville, Texas. Quite a bit of repeaters you can look through on the map and see exactly in your area. Of course, over here, if you live in Benjamin, what state is that? Benjamin, Texas. I've never even heard of the place. You probably don't have coverage there. But with more interest and more activity, maybe more GMRS repeaters will go online. But it's safe to assume that there's a couple in every state. Maybe not allowed. Wow, there is some in Alaska. Okay, Hawaii, ready? And there's not one in Hawaii. If you live in Hawaii, you don't have a GMRS repeater. But other than that, Puerto Rico, no way. Look at this. Wow. Quite a bit of GMRS coverage in Puerto Rico. And you know what? Let's go back to the zombie apocalypse again real quick. When all else fails, radio is there, right? Radio prevails every time. What happened in the storms? I bet you GMRS was littered with radio emergency traffic in here when they lost cell phone and everything. For the preppers out there, the campers, the off-grid people, GMRS is a very viable option that will keep you informed. If you don't have a ham license and you don't have ham gear, but you want to have something a little more effective than CB, or you want to have it alongside your CB, GMRS looks like there is quite a footprint in the United States of America. And the only thing I could say about not knowing too much about all these repeaters is I know there are some that require you sometimes to join for free. Some of them want you to be a member. Like, see, this is members only but free. So what does that mean? That means they want to know who you are. Hey, you're Eric, you want to join our repeater? Fine. Just go ahead and give us your call sign, join in. That way, they don't have people using this to get away from paying commercial licensing fees for their radio service on the highway. You know, this is for general radio service, general mobile radio service. It's not to take over and to implement your own taxi service on somebody's repeater. Somebody put this repeater up, and it's open to the public, but don't abuse it. You know, this one's undefined. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Let's try another one. Let's see if there's any that are members only that are. Let's see. That's an open system. You don't even have to join this one. You can. In fact, I know somebody, Don over there, who would get on the. I think he does get on the Claremont and the Ocala. But that's an open system. You can get on and just talk. So, you know, it doesn't mean you have to go joining all kinds of mailing lists. It just means they're going to put these up and they're going to make it. This is travelers only. See, so travelers only may mean if you're coming through town, use their repeater, but don't put your kids on it or don't talk to your wife on it because you want to avoid a cell phone bill. That's pretty much what they're saying there. And I'm not sure how friendly some are as opposed to others. You'll just have to check. The rule of thumb, as far as I go with radio or life in general, 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as much as you talk. And I did steal that from Dr. Rich and the Love Doctors. He used to say that. So if you're familiar with WZZR Talk Radio. But listen, you know, turn it on, listen as you travel and hear what people talk about. Hear what they're communicating and what they're using it for. If you hear a bunch of people that are just using it to talk and be friends and to meet people, whatever, fine. Get on there and talk. If you hear people that are really tight-knit and you don't feel comfortable, then just stay out of it. I mean, that's the best advice I can give you as a new radio operator, whether you're going to CB or ham. Listen more and listen to what's on there already so you can get familiar and not jump in and make yourself uncomfortable, because that's where the first time newcomers get pushed off of ham radio is when you have people that are very rude to them and they push them off, and then people never come back. So be welcoming, be friendly, and be Elmering to other people that may not know. If I get on GMRS and you hear me on the repeater in Florida, teach me something. I'd love to know it. Wow, so part 1 so far, teaching you a little bit about GMRS and what goes on and a little bit of knowledge for your head. Hopefully you learned a lot. A couple things I could say as far as repeaters. It takes a lot to get repeaters on the air and to maintain them and keep them on the air. Whether it be a ham radio repeater or a GMRS repeater, you have to remember it costs money to lease the antennas on the towers and the space inside. It costs money to buy the antennas and the feed line, and then it costs money to have a tower climber go put it up on the top. Then it costs money to have people update the computers and everything else. So if you're local to a club and you get friendly with the guys on GMRS, offer a hand. Whether you're paying dues or just being there to offer help to keep the service alive, that is the name of the game to keep these machines operational. And the same thing happens with ham radio. In Vero Beach here in Indian River County, these guys have like 12 repeaters up on the air. D-Star repeaters, analogs, System Fusion, DMR. That took a great deal to get that together. But now that it's done, everybody's enjoying it. I don't want everybody to forget what it took to get those on the air. As far as the next videos, so Midland radios, we're going to check those out. And I forgot to mention, not only did I use Midland radios in my past with CBs and stuff like that in my weather radios, in my field of work, we use a lot of the Midland Titan series mobiles. Those are 110 watt mobiles for VHF low band. And we also use the Midland LMR repeaters, the base station repeaters that are generally 50 or 100 watts. And those are bulletproof. Those things are strong. They've been running for years. Midland doesn't really do LMR anymore as far as, you know, an active product that they sell. But they did also do P25, and I'm not sure why they got out of P25. Maybe it wasn't as busy or as active as one would think. I really would like to get a Midland P25 radio so I can check out P25 in the amateur world. But Midland is around me every day, so this isn't new for me, and this doesn't even go way back. This goes to tomorrow. More or less, I'll be using a Midland radio at work tomorrow. And 7-3 guys, leave your comments below. Thanks for watching. KJ4YZI.